So today we're doing episode 2, and this is about, our question will be, what would the world be like if all men experienced true brotherhood? So, welcome to the Outpost. Today we're going to talk about brotherhood and our experience, the three of us, and we call this episode The Middle Seat.
The Middle Seat.
We'll get into that again. I'm Tim Baker. This is Scott Dubois, and today we're so fortunate to have John Woodall in our midst. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. I love starting here. I want to say to you guys, I'm thrilled to be here. And as we've already said, I think all three of us are kind of in a God moment because the three of us, we went to Uganda in December of 2019. And that was a time in my life when, the life that I knew was starting to crash to the ground. Mm. And we were in Uganda on a 7-hour bus ride, and I was seated on the right. Tim was in the middle. Scott was on the left. And I remember starting that thing out saying, hey, I want to say something to you guys. I don't know if you remember this.
So it wasn't then. We'd been there for a few days.
We might have been there a few days.
And then we drove 7 hours to Murchison Falls. So we had a few days to get together.
Kind of warm up.
You knew us a little bit.
I knew you a little bit, but I didn't know you at the level that I was getting, that I was observing. And I think I started this conversation with, something that I like about you guys? You guys really seem to love each other. Yeah. Do you remember that?
I did, absolutely.
And
it didn't surprise us.
It did or did not?
No.
Yeah. It was an opportunity for me to see two men like, you have to tell me a little bit more about this because not only do you guys seem to love each other, but you seem to enjoy one another. Yeah. So why don't you guys start there? How is it that you guys got to a point that an outsider like me is looking in, to so easily see these guys just love each other?
We did like each other right off. I mean, there was never.
We did. We were always brothers.
And we both have had friends longer. So
yeah.
But there's
what
clearly magic.
What are some of the things that, because we're going to be getting into this about men, being with other men, encouraging, strengthening one another, but what were the sort of early attraction points? Like, I like this guy. I want to spend more time with this guy.
I think we both identified in the other person a person of strength, a person of comfort, a person of safety. I think we both identified in the other person a person who really understands, who gets it. I think we also the journey started as us working in LDG with Robbie Engel.
What's LDG?
Leadership development groups.
Mm-hmm. So men's discipleship, 10-month men's discipleship.
Yeah. It was modeled after radical mentoring that Reggie Campbell started in Atlanta. And so we got into this together, and it was really more, and we were very aligned, very much hungry and curious about this. Curious is a great word, about the same things. So we started doing this together. And then from there, we literally started in ministry. And while we were serving others, I think we started serving and ministering to each other. And it just became something that was very deep and very authentic. And as I said earlier, experiencing brotherhood for the first time, that first year was amazing to me. I'd realized what I'd missed all these years.
Why are you?
But hold on. Yeah. But I also realized the power of being known by one very deeply was, to me, kind of the launching pad for real life change. And I don't, you don't pick your family. You're given the family that you're born with. You get to pick your spouse if you really believe that. But that's your first choice outside of your nuclear family. And the ability to, what grew between Tim and I was like, no. This is ride or die. This is what we're doing here. What we've experienced together is really, profound. We used to talk about this is just profound. We didn't really understand it. But that's kind of what gets us
I
here.
mean, even the thing that you guys are talking about, and in a few minutes, I'll get to the thing that impressed me. It's amazing to me that we are sitting here together 6 years later.
Yeah.
We went on that bus ride 6 years ago, and a lot has happened in our world, especially 2020. We went on that, I guess, at the end of 19. Mm-hmm. But, there's something that causes a man to want to be known or want to be a part of. I don't know how many guys are listening to this thing, even being aware, like, I need that or I want that. So when and how did that happen for you guys?
Did we realize that we needed it?
Yeah, or that this thing that you just offered, you said it in passing, but I think it's a really big idea about this thing of being known.
Oh, yeah.
You said something like, I want to be known by one. I wonder how many guys that are listening to this thinking, woo, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to be known. And I've been around this man thing long enough that some guys go, if you really knew me, you would not want to be with me. There's already this sort of self-rejection that if you really knew all of me, you would not want to be with me. But you were at a place like, I want to be known, so something brought you to that.
Well, one of the benefits we got, let me say a couple comments. One is Scott reminds me so much of my father in literally all the best ways. And so in some ways, he was very familiar, and it delights me to be with him just because it reminds me of my dad. So that's this 10-month program, discipleship program that we did it 8 years in a row where you did that same curriculum. And one of the things we ask in there is that you tell your story. And what we ask them to do is write your whole story and then write the story you're ready to tell. And then come and we do a retreat. And so Scott and I told our stories every year.
Yeah, you led the way, right?
And so, you just think about how that brought us together. And then to your earlier question about I don't want to be known, it is shocking how many men come in with the story they're ready to tell and tell the story, the whole story.
That's a very interesting thing that you're saying. You just used the phrase for a man that's ready to tell.
Here's what I think I'm ready to tell. And then they get on this retreat and we lead, we start. And then we pick a couple
with your
guys
story and your stuff.
And by the time it's their turn, they're like, you know what? I'm going to tell. Yeah. And they do.
They think they're only going to tell level 1 or 2 something, but they've got a level 4 or 5.
And once they're exposed to it and they see the authenticity and there's no shame and no, it's like you feel the weight lifted. It's kind of like it's got to do it every year, which was so beautiful for us to. I used to say I can't run for political office because there's a couple of.
Did you guys find that each year that you did it, that you told more of your story?
Mine is one event, so I only told the one.
So you have one thing that you repeated 8 times. It wasn't like each year that you told a little more of the story.
It could, and I think Scott has adjusted his, but it's not just this one thing. It is your whole story. I was born in California and married it's the whole story. And then at the end of my story, I go back and say, here is the one thing that used to bring me the greatest shame, and I tell it. Story. But that just, you can imagine the barriers that are torn down between two men who have to tell their most embarrassing moment to a new group of men every year.
We would call the level of vulnerability we would try to achieve is we would give the people in the group what we would call bullets. And these are the truths about us that if they were known,
they could kill you.
They could be used against us.
Yeah.
Complete and total vulnerability. And telling our stories was bonding, and it was amazing for us, and I think it really helped men step forward into a much greater light that they'd been avoiding. The other thing that we did for years is we wrote our obituaries. Each with the idea, although we never probably spoke it, each with the idea that I would read his and he would read mine.
But it also seems to me that the level at which you guys are talking, let's just call it level 5, that's willing to identify the one event or to identify the bullets. Again, when I think about the guys that are peering into this conversation,
Sure.
I wonder, even that, it seems like somebody gets there at like I remember, let's go back to Uganda. I'm looking at you two guys and I'm thinking, man, I love what I'm seeing in these guys. They seem to love one another. They certainly seem to enjoy one another. And we got thrown into 3 seats. And I remember part of that conversation, I remember you saying something like, we have told one another the last 10%. Right. Like our relationship is,
right.
We have told one another the last 10%. And boy, do I remember one of the reasons that trip is indelibly impressed in my mind. That's why I'm just so grateful to be in this conversation with you guys today. I remember sitting on that bus thinking, I got 10%. I got 10% or more that I'm not telling anybody about. Now, in my case, right, I was a prominent public figure, big church in America, and, we have our own issues, right? Public figures have their own issues. Like, I can't really tell what's deeply going on inside of me. I may get fired or, whatever our fears are. But boy, do I remember that, you guys talking about the last 10%. And do you remember that?
I do.
That was amazing.
So you were in the middle seat, and I'm sitting here, and my bottom side already hurts. Because
you're in the jump seat.
I am in the jump seat. It is 7 hours, up one way, down the other. And we are literally going 0.5%, Tim and I, with John. So I want to go back, and I want you to kind of unpack for us, what was it like in that conversation? And there was a moment in that conversation, John, where you decided, as the person that you were, you decided, I'm going to start shedding the last 10%.
Yeah.
What went through your mind? What were you invited into?
Well, I love it, and it just has such a fabulous memory for me, because while the last 10%, while it was deep and it was important, we were able to unpack it in somewhat of a lighthearted,
sure,
or even a somewhat humorous way.
Sure.
So we're talking, and I will tell you something that's extremely important to me in brotherhood, in male friendship and relationship. Ideally, if you can find another man who's curious, both of you are curious men. I remember, I love questions. I would much rather ask you a question than make a statement. So then when I find somebody that's actually asking me questions, just on a side note, without going too far down this trail, I discovered that when I would be with you and I was asking you all questions about you and your story, it took me some time in therapy to recognize it was a controlled defense mechanism. As long as I'm asking you questions, you're not asking me.
Yeah.
And when I have 10% plus of resentments that are growing in my soul, I can keep you away by asking you questions. And so something was going on. One of the elements, right, that increases this kind of friendship and brotherhood is time. I mean, you guys had a lot of time invested. We chose to go to Uganda to help some soccer coaches that are reaching thousands of Uganda children. So we had time together. We were on a mission together. And then having the time and space, I recognize I'm actually with a couple of men that seem interested in me. Now, that's another thing. Most men, right, all of us are living at the speed of business.
Yep.
we're living at that speed. You pick the speed. And how many guys really have the time to ask you a question and listen to your answer? But the thing that I experienced with the two of you guys is not only was I beginning to experience the love, I believe it's the love of Jesus Christ in you. I believe it's the love of God that was planted in your heart, that was going on between you, and the two of you started sharing it more with me. So I was beginning to experience this love coming to me. It was coming in the form of curiosity. It was coming to me in the form of interest. There was follow-up question. And within that conversation, the safety meter started rising. Like, I feel a little more safe with these guys. So you guys telling your story gave me permission to begin to open up my heart. And I remember it clearly. I don't remember what the story was, but you guys were talking, and I started out saying, well, I got 10% that nobody knows about. Well, I'll give you 1%. And I remember sharing like my first resentment. Now, let me back up. I don't want to go way off on this resentment side.
Sure.
But I know this from my alcohol journey, that resentments is one of the number one drivers to alcohol.
Wow.
When I went through AA,
Anger.
I did not know that the resentments that were growing in me were actually being numbed and taken care of in another way. And so when I'm with you guys, it's like, all right, I'm going to say something, because in my case, where I was a public Christian leader figure, I can't really tell you what I'm actually thinking or feeling, because now these were my illusions, these were my beliefs. I'm going to look bad to these guys that I'm saying, I want you guys to follow me as I follow Christ. Well, the crazy thing is I'm looking at you guys thinking, whatever you guys have, I want more of. And so then when I dropped to you, which was a resentment, something that had happened that I was holding against this person, and you guys heard it, and you took it. You took it with grace. You took it with understanding. It's like I'm sitting there, and knowing we got 4 hours in front of us, I start thinking there's more where this came from.
I'm sure you remember. I remember the expression on John's face when he dropped the first bomb.
Yeah.
And he was like he was looking at us.
Like, what's changed?
Like,
have I just?
Yeah, like,
do they look disappointed?
Has the respect meter changed?
Right,
Have we?
right.
And then
Do I have
then you kind
authority?
of sat back
Have
and
I
you're like,
lost
oh,
authority?
I'm going to go a little farther.
Which, by the way, that example, which I love, I'm glad you're reminding us of this. That expression right there is an expression of acceptance. Again, this is another topic we could do a whole episode on what does it mean to be accepted. It's a big idea in the Bible, right? You know, different men talk about, quote, accepting Christ. You know, that's a phrase that, you know, Christians throw around, accepting Christ. Well, that whole thing is flipped. We are the ones that Paul writes about in Ephesians chapter 1 that are accepted in the beloved. We are already accepted. Now, if you have a story that's similar to mine, my chief wound over my 70 years of life, my chief wound is rejection. I'm not getting into this right now. The story that happened in my family of origin, what happened in my, family life. But to sit with two men that I felt accepted, I'm going to put this out there, and these guys are not reacting. They're not rejecting. They're accepting. That atmosphere of acceptance allowed me to say, okay, I want to give you another. Now we're at 92%. We did that.
In your mind, yes. In your mind, were you not convinced, and that's why you only. So I'll peel back a little bit. Like, were you being convinced? Was it a process of being convinced?
Great observation. Great question. I think you're onto a really big thing in a brotherhood, is that trust. That trust is established over time, and there's no way. Like, I had a couple of events that. And we may get to this in the story, but I remember, I think it was the 7 hours back. It was at the 14. It was either at the 14-hour mark or the 7-hour mark. I remember pulling you guys off and telling you what one of my a thing that had happened, and it was and I was angry about it. I was pissed off about it, and I just went, I'm going for it. I'm telling you the rest of the story.
Yeah, I remember.
But this thing that we're talking about that we want in these friendships, I think it is a gradual thing.
It takes time.
It takes time, and
that's an important point. It's not there's not a lever that just flips.
No,
it's like it's built over time.
It's built over time, and I had already known you guys and respected you guys, but. You know, the deeper parts of me, the deeper parts of any man, because I'm still walking with men. I'm dealing with a man right now, very successful CEO, and what he did in his climb, he's got some stories that he's been carrying them and bearing them, and he's finally getting to a place.
They surface.
They
always come back.
Yeah, they always come back.
So one of the things that's really cool about what you just outlined and the different elements of time and trust, the different elements of being invited into a safe environment, so many elements you've just outlined, we could put out as, if you will, a picture of brotherhood, a picture of how it could be. And, you know, my curiosity is, it's something that most men don't experience because it's too easy to default. And default means get down, be passive. I'll use your definition. It's too easy to keep the garage door down, keep working,
watch the Braves game.
Get back on Delta, become a scratch golfer. It's too easy to mow the lawn. Default,
which are all good things.
Which are all great things.
And we want to make sure that all of these guys know,
man. Scratch game, right?
Hey,
I love yard work.
All of it.
But my question is...
But if it's being used to silence the pain, to numb the pain, to ignore the pain.
So how do you think brotherhood as we know it falls apart?
Say a little more about that, or are you asking why does brotherhood not happen?
Yes.
Well, you know me. You guys are going to ask me a question. The first thing I want to do is flip it right back to you. I do.
Are you being defensive?
Not at all. No, not. In my past, I would have been guarded and controlling. But no, now it's genuine interest. I think I really do. I'm genuinely interested to know, what have you seen, guys, that keep them from that kind of brotherhood? I have my idea. I have by the way, for the podcast and everything, I have opinions on all things.
I'm sure.
Don't wonder, does he have an opinion about this?
I know.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Right. But I love learning too.
One of the things that Scott and I did, and we had to reiterate almost every year, was sarcasm was not allowed in our circle. And sarcasm, okay, I'm going to go into my theologian. The Greek word for sarcasm is sarx, which is the Greek word for flesh. Sarcasm is a ripping of the flesh.
Yes, it is.
And sarcasm most typically is a cover-up to pain.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So, and Scott would always say, in adding some flesh to that story, is like, in sarcasm, there's always a loser.
Yes.
And when I confront men with that concept, most men go, wow, I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
So we tire quickly of discussions about your sporting team, and like there's so much more to life. And I think most men would say, "Gosh, I'd like to go deeper, but I'm not comfortable being vulnerable." I mean, that really is the obstacle you have to get them. And once we demonstrate our vulnerability, it tends to.
Well, that's the question. Like what's keeping them is one has it not been modeled. For example, my father, I told you guys, very successful in the insurance world, took us to London, England, and he did not become a believer in or a follower of Jesus until he was 40. Mm-hmm. So he lived the first 40 years of his life in his kingdom. And then when he came to Jesus, I'll never forget it. I was 14 years old, and he gathers our family around. We're living in a flat in Knightsbridge, London, England. And my newly believing father in Jesus pulls the family together, and he says, "Hey, I just want to let you guys know I think that I have failed as your father, and I would like to ask your forgiveness."
Wow.
Yeah. So at the age of 14, I'm seeing something modeled that I don't even know. And I remember as a 14-year-old thinking, okay, sure, Dad, fine, I forgive you. Not a big deal. But when that came into my fatherhood and to my marriage, acknowledging and asking forgiveness, it was modeled for me, so it was easy to do. And so I think a lot of guys, they
never seen
it. We don't have a model. We don't have an I think this is one of the reasons we're having this conversation.
Sure.
Is a lot of guys have not seen this, what it means to open up.
Well, I think brotherhood falls apart in sarcasm. I think brotherhood falls apart when there's no trust. Mm. Brotherhood falls apart when it's so.
Excuse me for interrupting. I apologize. You're talking about when it falls apart, but I am curious about what keeps the man from entering.
Ever even entering.
So I'm saying.
I think they're both the same. I think what keeps people from entering brotherhood is the same thing that tears it apart, and that is lack of trust to enter, lack of trust to stay, lack of trust, lack of comfort to enter, lack of comfort to stay. Because if you only knew, if you really only knew, I think it's the ability to weather. It's the impact of sarcasm. It's not wanting to get it, not wanting to receive it, and then if you do receive it, your threshold to be comfortable and to receive sarcasm works against you. You kind of want to remove yourself from the environment. I think that it is a lot easier to stay on the path of simplicity and comfort. That keeps people from entering. And sometimes when you're in it, sometimes it's easier just to stay quiet and to avoid the conversation because you just don't want to go there. Yeah. So I think the barrier to entry and the barrier to stay, what can slow it down or hinder it, I think they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
Well, I know, like when I'm asking you guys this question, the first word that's come into my mind is the word shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I was ashamed that I had this kind of stuff going on inside, and you don't necessarily know what to do with it. I think one other dynamic that I want to put into this conversation about brotherhood, when I think about relationships, when I think of what the two of you have, what the three of us have, I always think about an inverted triangle, a relational triangle. When we talk about level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think this is really important. It's important to me to recognize that level 1 is basically strangers. You see somebody at the airport, hey, have a good flight. Level 2 is acquaintances. I know them at work. Level 3 is casual. Hey, good to see you, neighbor. Then you're getting to level 4, which is close. You're starting, but you're still not completely, I haven't shared 100%. And then level 5 is deep and intimate. Mm-hmm. And I have discovered at the level 5 in my brotherhood, I don't think, just an opinion, 70-year-old opinion, I don't think a man needs much more than 2 or 3 at the level. This kind of thing that we're talking about, me telling you the last 10% and knowing that I'm going to be loved and I'm going to be accepted and these guys are going to continue in a relationship with me, I don't need the crowd. I don't even need 8 men in a small group.
Right.
So I just think to put those various levels, it was helpful to me because not everybody needs to know what the three of us talked about after many, many days and hours invested in one another.
So one thing to tease out, when you think about the level of, we have brothers in Christ. We have 3 here. We have the men that we meet with every Monday night. We have the guys that we go to Uganda with. I'll be there in 2 weeks. But you kind of pull back, and it's something you said was interesting, John. What is the level of effort, vulnerability, and inconvenience that's required to build the 1, 2, 3, whatever, your 2 a.m. buddies? What is the level of effort, vulnerability, and inconvenience? Because I think you just outlined something that was very curious to me. As you went to level 1 through 5, it made me think about the word effort. Talk about that. This
won't happen by accident.
There's a level of intentionality. There's a level of effort. There's a level of you have to show up even when you don't want to show up.
And there's risk.
Talk about that.
Well, here I am, whatever age I am, I'm nearly probably 65. Now, granted, I'm coming to the end of a 45-year career. I worked in 4 churches, 4 different cities.
Right.
And so I'm not saying this as an excuse. It was my experience living a fairly public life. Now, I don't have a dark private. We men are really good at creating compartments. That's the strength and weakness of a male. A man can compartmentalize and go into war, and a man can compartmentalize and create war in his marriage and his family. I don't have this dark side like, Woodall's this public, figure, but he's off, he's down on red light district.
Living a second life.
Living a second life. Now, but see, you bring up another big idea here. One of the things that I've been working through really the last 10 or 12 years of my life is the difference between a public life and a private life.
Wow.
And to me, one of the greatest things, one of the greatest places to be, in my opinion, as a man, is to be as fully integrated as a man can be. We may get to this conversation about what does it mean to be fully alive. But for a man to have integrity, to have alignment between his public and his private, it does take work. It takes a lot of work. It takes risk. And I don't have a lot of regrets in my life. I have some regrets in my life. And but this is why I'm saying at 70, at 71, that this whole thing that we're talking about takes time. Look at us. I mean, we're in our 60s and 70s, and I know that I'm okay that it's taken all this good, bad, and ugly to bring us to a place of deep love, deep respect, deep acceptance, deeply, fully being known. And these are in the heart, in the soul, in my opinion, of every man. When we were made by God to be in relationship with the God that made us, He made us with these desires to be loved and respected, to do a meaningful work. And it takes a lot of effort. And sometimes we get to do it intentionally. I did a lot of things intentionally. And there are also things that happen to us. There are things that happen in a man's story. I don't know how much I'm going to get into this, but my 46-year-old son took his life. I had to go through that a couple of years ago. That's no minor trial. But, So
let's talk about, we share, 3 of us share a friend who lost their only child, and and we were part of that. And he mentions often how important it was that he had an established intimate group. And Tim often says, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know I could have gotten through that without already having that.
Yeah.
So maybe suffering is too late. And Andy says this. It's like you don't wait till catastrophe, because you can't build relationship like that. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You got to already have those relationships.
Yeah.
So in your case with Dave, you had those relationships, or did you feel alone? Or
yeah, we I think in one of our episodes we're going to talk more about this whole thing of pain and suffering and its role in this world. But there is no question in my mind that I would not be sitting here today in my right mind if I did not have a band of brothers. And when I say band, I'm talking about the two of you. I've got a couple other guys down in Florida. I have a couple other guys. I have a band, and that band only represents 6 or 8 men. But I cannot even imagine going through something like that if there was not sort of the fortification of that. So
it's so funny because by the time you need it, if you haven't been put forth the effort, exhibited the vulnerability, gone through the inconvenience that intentionality requires, by the time you need it, if you don't have it, it's too late. Mm-hmm. So the costs...
It's very dangerous.
It is. The cost, this is the ultimate cost of going it alone, that when catastrophe does happen and you are alone, the spiral and the consequences are much greater. So with that being said, why do you guys think that the prevailing habit, the default behavior, is to kind of resist accountability and
I think the whole idea of accountability scares me.
And being in community where people they just know and they're going to ask you about it, and they're going to ask you about it again. And I think that's what keeps people from the initial making the effort, being vulnerable, the inconvenience of intentionality, and saying, I'm prioritizing it now.
Yeah, I have I know this might surprise you guys, but I have some opinions on this.
Can't imagine.
Yeah. Would you like me to share a couple of these opinions?
Tally-ho.
Tally-ho. So one of the things that I love to talk about, one thing that I love to think about, and actually my counselor said to me in a former life, I probably would have been a philosopher and a thinker, just how much I love to think about knowledge and wisdom and things of this sort. So one thing, as it relates, that's a long preface to the end, is I love talking about the human condition. Mm. Now, this is just, this may not be interesting or necessary to a guy that's living the speed of business, that's right there in the middle. But, if I can insert the question and the wonder about the human condition, I think, again, in men, in all people, but in men, the default is isolation. The default is go alone. The default is independence. Yeah. I have a phrase that I used years ago, it's coming up right now, that for me to recognize my human condition, I have a power phrase that I sometimes say to myself and I say out loud, fight the fall. Fight the fall. The fall, we as believers in God and the Bible and Jesus, the fall is just a reference to what happened to the universe, what happened to the world in the beginning of time. How did we get in this mess? Well, sometimes we refer to that as the fall. We can describe it in a lot of ways. It's humanity being out of alignment with its maker.
Yeah.
The creator of the heavens and earth made life to be lived in a certain way. And we, at the beginning, thought, we can make our own decisions. We're gonna go our own way.
Yeah. Boy.
And so when that decision was made from the very first human, that was passed all the way down. And I think what's inherent in men is the fall of that, the result of that is we have to make decisions. We have to make decisions. It is not our default to go, oh, I want to be known and I want to tell you all my stuff. That's not my default. My default is to run. My default is to hide. And so I just think, having that awareness. And then another last thing on this, because I have many more last things. Another last thing on this about accountability, because I've thought a lot about this and I've experienced the good, bad, and ugly of accountability within Brotherhood. I know well-intended men say, hey, I want to hold you accountable. I want to ask you these 5 questions. Have you looked? Have you eaten? Have you done? Have you done? Have you not done? And last one is, have you lied to me? That's a well-intended strategy.
Wow.
That doesn't work, in my opinion.
I'm with you.
Here's what I had to come to, and in my opinion, what every man has to come to that's going to step into this brotherhood. I have to make a decision. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. That's one of the lines in AA. I became sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. When I sat with you in Uganda in the middle seat, I was coming to the end of being sick and tired of holding these resentments inside. And I need and I want somebody to talk to. And I am giving you permission to hold me accountable. It's not, you could say to me, hey, John, can I hold you all day long? But if I'm not willing to say, I want to be known, I want you to ask me, I think that's a huge thing for a man that's going to, begin to open up and be known.
Meaning he's not being pressed to be accountable. He is volunteering.
He's volunteering it.
That he's ready to expose.
Yeah, that's the effort. And I don't know. I have another big phrase at this time in my life when I watch what's happening to people. When I'm seeing people that are being conformed and transformed into the image of Christ. The phrase that I use is whatever it takes.
Wow.
God knew whatever it took to get your attention. He knows whatever it takes to get Scott Dubois to where he wants him to be. And my God knew whatever it took to get John Woodall's attention. I am not saying that my God was the one that initiated our divorce or, our God did the suicide. I'm not suggesting that at all. But God knew what John Woodall was going to go through, and his promise was to be with me so that I would be shaped, conformed, transformed, changed into the image of Christ. And that transformation process, in my opinion, especially through what we've been through, cannot be done alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I believed in this stuff before. Yeah. I mean, I really believe it now.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. It's a non-negotiable.
One of the things that's interesting to me is that I remember that conversation. I remember that ride. It is God's will. It's so ordained that we could be here 6 years later. But I think what's interesting and just to prove your point was that I know through text, through phone, I know that I am. There's been an intentional walk and an intentional outreach, an intentional catch-up with you because once you're brothers, you're brothers. And your level of honesty, our level of connection, that you kind of said, I want that. I'm going to step into that. Hey, the water's warm at the deep end of the pool. It's not cold. It's actually warmer. I think it's been transformed. I think it's been transformed for me. But I know, and I'm hearing that surviving hardship was easier connected as opposed to this.
Yeah, but you're reminding me of something with that comment and that question is when you think about a brotherhood that we're aspiring to, that we want every listener to part. Imagine a world of men that had men and brothers that would not forsake them
Yeah.
at their lowest moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my story, right? The loss of our first grandchild was 2014. So we had tragedy, trauma after trauma. And you guys happened to be on the bus. And then I went away. I went away for 6 years. I went into solitary, air-conditioned prison, dark place, and feeling ashamed of things that happened. And what do I see on my phone? Scott Dubois. Call me, brother. Call me. And there were times like I didn't even want to breathe. I didn't even want to talk. But I had a brother that did not give up on me. And particularly in my story, when the life that I knew came crashing to the ground and you're in the darkness and you're alone, and God has you in that place and he wants to do a deeper work in you in that silence, in that solitude. The enemy of our soul also whispers, you're a loser, you're a failure, what you did not matter, et cetera, et cetera. And a really good brotherhood knows the song in your heart, and he knows how to come back and sing it to you. And that's what you did. One of the reasons that the three of us are here, and the beautiful thing about that, particularly when a man's going through a hard thing, the worst question that you want to be asked, you don't, I think I represent all people in suffering. You don't want somebody to say, hey, how are you? Worst question to ask. And you never asked that question. You never said, if somebody asks the question, how are you? They can ask it with, how are you today? Well, today's a good day. Today's a horrible day. I can answer to today. And the other thing is you didn't require anything of me. And we may get to this in another episode, but the issue of presence, this is a really, really big idea to me. The presence of God, not only being with us, but being in us. But God shows himself when he's present through other brothers in the brotherhood. What your text, what your voice messages did that I never returned was, this guy's still here. He still knows. And it was in that dark place that you knew the song that God had given to me that had been shut off, and you kept singing it. I mean, this is Brotherhood 501, especially when somebody hits really turbulent waters and are about to be taken down and out, to have somebody that says, no, man, I know you.
And it's funny, I will tell you this. I learned something in us pursued, something in us texted, something in us called, something in us so deeply wanted to send the message and the encouragement. He said, we spoke to you in the song, we spoke to you about, or with you, or at the song that was in your heart. We didn't let you forget the music that you made. We didn't let you forget your genius. We didn't let you forget and
that's part of being known at this level. The fact that you guys knew me at that level when the music stopped, when that world came crashing to the ground under God's oversight.
Yes.
God's absolute oversight of what's going on, to be known by people that said, I'm with you.
Yeah. And I learned that from him.
Tell us more.
Tim Baker has this way of, it doesn't matter if it's a good day, bad day. It doesn't matter if you're prepared, unprepared. It doesn't matter if you've come equipped or really just not equipped. But he has this way of reminding you that in spite of the circumstances, he has this way of inviting you up, inviting you forward. You are always welcome. Now, I had never seen that before in my life. I saw it from a few guys that I went to college with. I saw it a little bit in my family of origin. I really didn't see it from my earthly father. I discovered it later in life from my heavenly father, once I really started to understand grace. But until I understood grace, really understood grace, I kind of experienced that, especially as we started working together, like this dude was all in. This dude was unconditional. This dude, no matter how what prepared you were, this dude was always like, man, this was great. You were great.
Thank you, Scott.
You were great. And that level of, I'm just going to use the word encouragement, acceptance. You could use either word. That is what really taught me this whole idea of being, it's kind of a level of stickiness. You're not going to go away. You can't lose my love. I'm not going to just recede. I'm going to encourage and invite in and invite forward. Encourage and invite in and invite forward. And when you think you're not enough, I'm going to encourage, invite in, invite forward. That is powerful. We've all experienced that.
Well, you're bringing up an aspect of this, another thing within the human condition that I think it's very easy for men. Once again, it's very easy for us to get deceived. And we need another voice. We need another voice. We lose sight. We lose heart. We faint. We grow weary. And how important that is. And I will tell you another thing about the Brotherhood. This is a big idea to me, and I don't think we can get into it on this podcast. There's a lot of conversations today about people deconstructing their faith. They're going in and out of Christian. When you go through deep suffering, it's very common for somebody to go, God, where are you? Mm-hmm. And one thing I learned is God does not promise me anywhere to answer my why. Mm-hmm. Why me? Why him? Why her? Why it? But the human wants to say why. And all of these questions. And even at 65, even the last 6 years of my life, with as much as I've known Jesus and I've been around God and the Bible and church and all that kind of stuff, I mean, I was assaulted mentally and emotionally, psychologically, every which way, that I wondered, God, where are you? Mm-hmm. I mean, I felt like I was coming right to the edge of unbelief. Mm-hmm. And being connected to brothers that believed, not just in me, but still believed in this good God that was in control. There was a period of time that I needed to lean into your belief because I don't believe right now. Mm-hmm. And wow. I mean, I hope that men don't have to suffer that way. I think you raised that question. Can we get to this kind of bond and this kind of brotherhood without this kind of suffering? I don't know. My answer is I don't know, and I'm tempted to say I don't think so. Yeah. But suffering is a whole nother topic for another day.
I've got some counseling training last year. They said this thing was so powerful. You guys have touched on it, but I want to make this note. It says for people to feel truly loved, the thing they need, you think you can fix people's problems, all they need to know is they will not go through it alone. Mm. And our culture as men is we back away when people are struggling, like we're uncomfortable. To be a good friend, to be a good husband, to be a good father, you will not go through this alone. Yeah. And that's what Scott did. He stepped in. I'm proud of him. It's fantastic.
Yeah. One thing too is that the thought just left me. It was great what you just said. It was anyway.
So I don't know if we're going to get to this. First of all, I love talking about this, and I love talking about it specifically with the two of you. Because it is our story, how God knit us together many years ago. And so there's some guys listening that I could imagine thinking, well, good for you guys. Good for you. Glad you guys got it. Glad you guys got one another. 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. but I don't got it. I don't have it. What do I do?
Yeah.
What would, if the guy's just peering into this and going, some of it sounds good, a lot of it's interesting to me, I don't know what to do. What would we tell this guy?
There is nothing that I won't slow down for faster than for the needs of my brother, Tim, and for the needs of the men that I meet with every Monday night. There's nothing I won't slow down faster and put everything aside for the time that I get to engage with you and other men like you, John. And I think that part of the missing out, why don't I have what you have? Great that you have it. What's missing is the level of slowing down and showing up and making it important. You just said that. It's
So that's a huge one that you just, even for you to just say, you want to look in the camera and say, guys, slow down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost so obvious, but I mean, the speed at which people are living, I mean, it does require a slowing down.
Well, and think about our situation. Our men's group meets every Monday night for decades, and it's a priority. The only time we're comfortable missing is we're on vacation or something. Like, it is that critical. But a lot of people would say, I don't have a night a week that I can give away. Well, my response would be, you can't afford not to give that night, night
I'm
away.
I'm at that point.
But there are people that are in isolated situations. They can't just go into, our church is so wonderful about groups and stuff. But part of what we're going to do in the Outpost is we're going to address this. And so it starts with one person. One of our goals in LDG that we mentioned earlier was not that everybody knew your story, but at least one person knew your story. So my challenge to every man out there is, like, you've got to have somebody who you're willing to risk and be courageous.
Hold on, I gotta jump on that. Please forgive me, but you just said a really powerful thing to me, and the way that you just framed that, and you got to find one guy. So I sort of knew this about telling your story, but again, like the old Frosted Flakes commercial, you taste something again for the first time. So I'm in an AA journey in April of 2020, and in the humor of God, my sponsor was one of my table leaders at 7. The last thing I wanted to do is show up at an AA meeting, because it was in this area, and I had been a public figure, and one of the reasons I didn't want to go is I'm going to be known here, and I don't want to be known for this.
Right.
And I knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, is this AA?" The guy says, "Sure is, come on in." And I walk in and he goes, "I know you. I've been to your meetings." And I go, "And now I'm coming to yours." But here's the thing. He became the one that knew the rest of the story. Think of the timeline. The two of you are December of 19. It's like, I got to get this out. I got to get this out. And then it's only 4 months later, it's April of 20, that I say to my wife, I may be an alcoholic. I'm going to AA. But to be able to tell the whole story, at least to one. And I don't know, maybe it's an AA that they say secrets are too powerful to keep. Or, what secrets will kill you.
Yeah, they kill.
But the fact that you have one guy, in addition to Jesus, like, I can look at you and you go, dude, you know my story. You know all of it. There's nothing hidden here.
And he doesn't love you less.
And he doesn't love you more. He loves you more.
Yeah.
That's the part that's a kicker.
That's the mystery, and that's the lie. The lie that's out there is, if I tell you more, you're going to love me less and walk away from me.
Reject me, yeah.
And the absolute opposite dynamic in the kingdom of God is, the more you know, the more you're loved.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
One, John Woodall and Tim Baker, I would travel 14 hours round trip with you in a van to Uganda again and again and again.
Bring it on.
So rich.
Right, because it's my confessions it's you listening to my junk next trip is I want to hear your junk.
Absolutely. And our junk is only getting better.
Oh, yeah.
As God keeps working on us. So that's the middle seat from Uganda. 14 hours round trip that was profound for each person around the table. So the next conversation, and John really hit it really well. What happens to the pain, or what happens when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired? Our next conversation with John is about what happens when God doesn't rescue you. What happens in the pain? Thanks for coming to the Outpost.